Okay, here's the story. A few years ago, I went to Chamberlain's Book Mine to get Anne Rule's final edition of A Stranger Beside Me, a paperback. And I think it was she had a final revision in 2008, but it was still a used book. So I went there and I'm checking it out, and the girl with glasses and blackish auburn hair. She says, "We met him. My mom met him." I said, "Your mom met him?" She said, "Yes, they own the Gator. My grandparents owned the Gator Inn on Phillips, and he was there." Okay. I didn't say, I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And, there were people in line, and I couldn't sit there. I didn't think enough to ask her any other additional questions. So I left. Now years go by, and I said, "You know what? He didn't have time to be in the Gator Lodge in the 36 hours he was in Jacksonville." They said he ate in a Holiday Inn in Orange Park, and he stayed at the Holiday Inn on Emerson, and he supposedly left a stolen car in Atlanta and took a trailways to Tallahassee. I'm telling you, he had a relationship with somebody in Jacksonville, Debbie and her family, I believe. Maybe it was 68, but why Jacksonville? Let's say he had the GOP convention in Miami and he stopped up there. Anyway, the Gator Lodge was built in the 60s. A person built it. His name was Salvador Tamancio. He changed his name to Sam King, King. In the 1960s, he and his wife opened this motor lodge, Gator Inn, Phillips, but they had put I-95 through there and people were bypassing it, so the business fell and the area became a prostitute, and it goes on and on. Sam died in 1972, so they no longer own the Gator Lodge, and Lisa had grown up like 59 or 60, and then her sister came along in 63 or something. Well, they were a little younger than me, actually. I was born in 54. She told her daughter, who worked at Chamberlain Book Mine, that they had Ted Bundy. So she knew the name. So he was using his name. So he had not committed murders. Why was he in Jacksonville? Because in 1967 he met the Hogues and there was a relationship. I have, this is it. This is the answer. Thank you, God in heaven. Finally, there's a connection. These people are ghosts. I can't find her. I've got it on Next Door Neighbor. I've got it at Chamberlain. They can't remember her. I remember her. I remember the conversation. She says, "My mom met him at the Gator Inn. That's where she lived." Well, they got a Jack Psycho, and it's about the Gator Inn. His name was Salvador Tamaccio. But anyway, changed it to King. He had two daughters, Lisa and Linda. They grew up in the motor lodge. Unfortunately, in 1972, he had a heart attack and passed away. So he was gone, and the family was no longer at the Gator Lodge to see Ted Bundy. So this happened before 78. So why? And then I got to thinking, how do we know he took a trailways to Tallahassee? Or during the 5 weeks he was in Tallahassee, how do you know how many times he may have come to Jacksonville? You really don't know. So thank you. This may be a breakthrough. If that lady PMs me, I put it out. I took a note after my walk. After I talked to these people, I had to still go about a mile and a half, and I wrote it on a piece of notebook paper because I keep a record of my car stuff. And I had one sheet left, and I wrote them. I told the whole story. I don't want your names, but now I know their name is. The mother changed her name to Bush, like Sarah Bush. She moved and sold the thing, and they had enough money to live. But anyway, she remarried, I guess, and the girls are grown now and going on. And then the granddaughter was at Book Mine. So Bundy had connections to Jacksonville in some fashion. I don't know. I'm not the FBI. Uh, how all this was, it's just serendipity that she said it. I'm checking out. She says, "My mom met him when she was a girl. She grew up in the Gator. They own the Gator Lodge." Well, that's the King family, or Tamaccio. Anyway, her mom met him, and they were no longer owned in 72. So that means unless maybe he drove, maybe he was driving home from the convention. Either way, he knew Jacksonville. I told you he knew Jacksonville. Thank you. I believe her. Also, some prostitutes were there that knew Elaine warned us, but that was later on. Thank you. Bye bye.